Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the Japanese model for the coming month. It's JMA Friday, as always. On a Friday, we have a look at the month ahead from a model in Japan. Also have a look at the Beijing Client Centre. We've got stormy and cold weather coming up next week, so we'll have a look at that at the end of the video. And we're going to start off with a little bit on the Stratosphere as well. So quite a bit going on. Just talk about the ads first of all, and then I'll get on with the video. So we've got links to articles sitting underneath the weather video here on the homepage at gadgets.com. Have a browse through widget. If there's any articles that you're interested in, just click through and you have to go and read those articles. There's green keyword ads on super page. If you roll your cursor over green keywords, they will display ads with click through word. Go to advertise website. Be supporting GavsWeapons.com by doing that as well. And Gav Shop remains open, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click through the Amazon banners in Gav Shop. That'll take you off to Amazon and just do your Christmas shopping there as normal, but because you've clicked through from Gavs Weapons to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things that you're purchasing. Thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. So just to start off with a little bit on the Stratosphere, not really talked about the Stratosphere much so far this autumn and just starting the winter, but this is the latest situation in terms of the temperature at 30 HPA over the North Pole. And the grey line here is where the stratospheric temperature should be. This is at the top of the atmosphere, by the way. The stratosphere is one of the top layers of the atmosphere. The grey line is where the temperature at this time of year should be. Notice we're in a very cooling trend right now through towards January, where we reach the coldest point in terms of the year, in terms of the stratospheric temperature. And then from January, it gradually warms up a little bit month by month until we get through towards the summer month when it turns fairly mild at 30 HPA over the North Pole. Now that's where the temperature trend is. The black line is where we are for this year so far, starting in September going through to where we are right now at the beginning of December. And you notice that actually we've not been deviating that far from the grey line really over the past few months. So stratospheric temperatures have been around sort of average. We're getting a little bit warmer than average actually at the start of the end of November, right into the very start, the opening day of December, we had a little bit of a warming, not a sun stratospheric warming, but just a little bit of a warming. We've cooled from that, actually gone a little bit below average, but overall we're not deviating that far from the temperature average in terms of the stratospheric temperature. We're nowhere near as cold as it was this time last year. You may remember I looked at these charts quite a lot this time last year, and as we got towards the last stage of December, we actually had record cold temperatures. We was down here somewhere with the black line. Now what we're going to be looking for through summer, and I'll just scroll up actually and move to 10 HPA, which is where we want to be looking first of all to get a stratospheric warming. So 10 HPA is right at the top of the stratosphere, right at the top of the atmosphere. You go from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 HPA and so on down through the atmosphere until you get to around 50 HPA, 500 millibars, which is getting towards the troposphere. When you get towards the troposphere, that's where weather is actually taking place. So 10 HPA is right at the very top of the stratosphere, right going out towards the top of the atmosphere really. And we want to be looking for warming up there, so we're going to be looking for a southern stratospheric warming through the course of the winter. Where we want to see the black line going, we want to see it shooting up to somewhere, let's say somewhere around here, minus 30 at 10 HPA, or somewhere around here. That's where we want to get to with the black line. When we get up there, if we get up there very suddenly anyway, we'll be able to say that we're having a sudden stratospheric warming. When you get a sudden stratospheric warming, that can translate back into blocking. The warming moves through the atmosphere from 10 HPA to 30 HPA, propagates down, and then eventually arrives in the troposphere, and that's when we start to set up blocking areas of high pressure. So we're going to be looking for a sudden stratospheric warming through winter. Will we get one? It can't really say. We should have a greater chance of one than last winter because we're in the easterly QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation. But certainly no stratospheric warming at the moment. It's very early days. They tend to occur during the middle and latter stages of the winter. Actually, this is the current temperature over the North Pole in terms of the stratospheric temperature. for the next couple of weeks. This is from meteoseal.fr. These are very nice charts, and this is for the 13th of December, so just over a week's time. And there is forecast to be a little bit of a warming taking place over the stratosphere as we get further on into this. These are sort of extended range charts of the GFS, so they're not to be relied upon. The stratospheric charts at the end of GFS are as unreliable as any of the other charts, really. But notice that as we move through, we do get this warming occurring. It's not a sudden stratospheric warming, it's just around the edge of the pole really, but by the 23rd of December, definitely hints of yellow there, just trying to get in towards the North Pole. What we want to see for a sudden stratospheric warming, I'm going to show you the archive charts. This very dramatic and bold looking picture is from 2013, the sudden stratospheric warming that occurred at the start of January. Notice all these red colours there, trying to push in towards the North Pole. That's a definite sudden stratospheric warming, and look what happens with this as we ran through the opening days of January 2013. The blue colours, which is really indicative of polar vortex, is basically destroyed. Look at that, it's ripped apart by that warming that pushes right the way through the pole. Incredible sudden stratospheric warming. That was a very intense warming indeed, and you notice that as we run through, the blue colours are basically being destroyed by that warm air that's occurring in the stratosphere, and we end up really with no blue at all. Actually, the blue pushes off in towards western parts of Canada and then down in towards the mid-latitude, but basically over the pole, over the Arctic region, that warming is covering the whole of the North Pole, and that eventually did translate. It took some time, but it eventually translated to that extraordinarily cold March that we had in 2013 with huge amounts of blocking. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say we'll see anything on a par with that for this winter, even if we get the sudden stratospheric warming like this. But that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking for anyway as we go through the winter. It'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. Thought I'd just start with that, because I haven't really mentioned the stratosphere very much through the course of this autumn and winter, early part of winter anyway, and just into the opening days of it, aren't we? So we're not really into winter yet, but haven't really mentioned it anyway, so I thought I'd start off with that just to show you what we're going to be looking for through the course of winter. Right, let's get on with the update from the Japanese model. It's JMA Friday. These are 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will be taking us from the 4th to the 11th of December. And the first thing, of course, to say is that British Isle is upside down. With this, we're just here. So the blue colours extrapolate to low pressure, the orange colours extrapolate to high pressure. So for the coming week, from the 4th to the 11th of December, we're going to see a trough of low pressure up to the northwest, ridge out to the west and the southwest of the country, and the jet stream, quite a strong jet stream actually, is running in something like that more or less through the country. We're almost on the cold side of it. The wind is originating off the coast of Greenland with this one, so relatively calm and quite unsettled actually for the week coming up. And I think that's a pretty good representation, to be honest, but what we're going to be having in the coming week. Now, as we go through to the next week period, this one taking us from the 11th to the 18th of December. Very similar scenario actually. The trough again shifts a little bit more towards the northeast maybe, and the ridge is perhaps more centrally based in the middle of the Atlantic. The jet stream again is doing something like that, so we're more or less on the cool side of the jet once again with that. Actually it could be a little bit cooler perhaps through that week. That could be a definitive sort of cold snap maybe, particularly for Scotland. Could start putting some really quite cold air with that sort of anomaly up to the north of the country. So unsettled again, and perhaps a little bit colder again through towards the 18th of December. And then we go through to the final 2 weekly period, this one taking us from the 18th of December to, would you believe, the 1st of January 2015 through to New Year's Day. And then we're going into a more general unsettled phase really. The low pressure is up there around Iceland. The jet stream is coming through like this. So generally we're quite mild actually with that. We're turning a little bit milder probably in the second half of the month, but we're still once again relatively unsettled. So the model's seeing quite an unsettled December really, continuation of unsettled pattern. starts off quite chilly and probably gets a bit milder actually as we go through to the end of the month. The Beijing Climate Centre, these are 500 bar heights broken down into 10-day periods, this one taking us from the 6th to the 15th of December, and it's a very similar situation to what you're looking at on the JMA. We've got the low pressures up to the north, got the high pressures out to the west and the southwest. The jet stream is going through something like that. We're more or less on the cool-ish side of the jet. The air is originating from Greenland and it's most unsettled in the north and the east of the country, most probably. Going through to the next 10-day period, going from the 16th to Christmas Day to the 25th of December. The trough is over and to the east of the country. The ridge is more centrally based in England. So that's very similar to the JMA. The JMA and the Beijing Climate Centre in sort of agreement of the pattern up towards Christmas anyway. The jet stream again going something like that. So more or less on the cool side of the jet. It's unsettled, most unsettled in the north, but all places having some rain coming through at time. And with the jet stream in that sort of position, there is the potential for some wintry conditions at times. Not talking about depths of winter, blizzards, anything like that, but some wintry potential is there on that sort of scenario. Moving through to the next 10-day period, going from the 26th of December through to the 4th of January, it's a similar type pattern. The trough again more or less over the country and to the east of the country there through central parts of Europe. The ridge is in the central part of the Atlantic and just showing signs here of beginning to move a little bit further northwards. That's not quite northern blocking yet, but it's sort of going in that type of direction. Maybe a little bit drier through that 10-day period from the 26th to the 4th, but still relatively cool, I would expect, on that. And then finally we go through to the final 10-day period. This takes us from the 5th to the 14th of January, and then we've got definitive orange colours up there over Greenland. That's proper northern blocking setting up over Greenland. We've got the troughs of low pressure underneath it through the Atlantic and across the east part of America. They could turn very cold again into eastern America. The jet is coming out and going something like that, more or less to the south of the country on the cold side of the jet, and we could be starting to pull down colder air from the northeast and the east with that sort of a setup. So as we go through into January, the signs are still there for Beijing Climate Centre. It's been a consistent signal over the last few month-head updates from the BCC. Still there as we go into January that we could well be starting to see northern blocking setting up over the pole, and then that's when things start getting very interesting. Now, just going back to the next few days, finally, this is for Sunday. This is the GFS for Sunday. It looks like we're going to pull some quite cold air down across the country on Sunday as an area of low pressure runs to the north of Scotland. We'll take a weather system through Saturday night, being wet weather, and behind that, the air's going quite cold, originating from Greenland. So it's a good reflection, really, this, of what we're just looking at from the Beijing Climate Centre and the JMA, actually. Instead of a high anomaly chart, this is a general sort of pressure chart. It's a good reflection with the low pressure up to the north, high pressure down to the west, and bringing down this northwesterly flow. But that's got quite cold air in it. So if we have a look at the thickness chart for Sunday, we can see that the 528 dam line there is clearing the country. So we're all within 528 thickness temperatures, and that's sort of cold, wintry air, so anything within that could be wintry, particularly if you've got dew points going below freezing. I haven't got time to run through all of the different things that we look at to decide whether we're having snow. I may update the Snow Watch page later on today or tomorrow, but I think for the north we've certainly got a risk of snow on Sunday, particularly Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of Northern England, North Wales could well get some snow on Sunday, mainly up over elevation, but don't be surprised to see a few flakes coming down to lower levels as well. But over the Scottish mountains there could be quite significant snow actually through the course of Sunday afternoon. And then we do it all again through the middle of next week, and next week is going to be much windier. So we've got this very deep storm system north of Scotland there, really tightly packed isobars on Wednesday. That's gales blasting across the country, severe gales in the north, and again we see from the thickness charts that that is bringing the 528 line back across the country. So it's turning cold again with those very strong winds, and that will be bringing the risk of wintry showers to the north of the country. Significant snow again probable over the mountains of Scotland, and of course with those sort of winds you'll be looking at blizzard conditions over the mountains, not at lower levels but over mountains. Could be looking at blizzard conditions as well. So we're in a very active phase of the weather at the moment. We've got this cold blast coming on Sunday, a storm system through the middle of next week which will bring more cold air back in, so wintry showers really for the north and significant snow over the hills and the mountains. It's all much more interesting already than we had at any stage through last winter if you want cold conditions. And then as we go beyond that, we've got to be watching out, I think, for the chance of northern blocking to begin to appear as we get into January. That's it for now. It's Weekend Forecast tomorrow, where we'll look at all this in more depth, and I may update the storm watch page, the snow watch page later. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.